On December 23, 1944, at 11:45 a.m., a German lookout station on St. Amps Hill in Belgium stood vigilant. The binoculars shook faintly in the hands of an observer from the 26th Folk Grenadier Division as he peered through them, beholding a sight that would forever alter his view of the conflict. Around midday on that December 23rd, conditions finally cleared enough for the initial airborne supply mission carried out by 241 C-47 planes. My God, the heavens are swarming with them, hundreds and hundreds. This defies belief. Peering through the German scope, he observed cargo aircraft crowding the skies over Belgium, resembling flocks on the move. Far from the mere handful or score of planes that beleaguered troops might muster in desperation, this was a vast fleet delivering essentials to the surrounded 101st Airborne Division. Prior to December 23rd, foul weather had blocked any resupply efforts. Yet now, the U.S. forces revealed in dominance in the air so profound that it rendered the Wehrmacht's most triumphant moments feel like faded echoes. Troops under General Major Heinz Kokot's 26th Volksgrenadier Division gazed from their encirclement posts as vibrant parachutes unfurled against the frosty backdrop. Red signaled ammo, blue indicated medical kits, yellow meant rations, and white covered other goods. Even the full Luftwaffe couldn't orchestrate a mission of such magnitude, not since the catastrophe at Stalingrad 2 years before. Still, above this modest Belgian village, the Americans effortlessly showcased aerial might, surpassing the Third Reich's peak accomplishments. The equation of downfall unfolded not through clever tactics or heroic defenses, but via the stark, unstoppable proof of U.S. logistical dominance, turning battle-scarred Wehrmacht old hands into onlookers of their regime's looming downfall. The build-up to the push. The campaign kicked off with unshakable assurance just a week prior. At 5:30 a.m. on December 16, 1944, the Germans unleashed a colossal 90-minute artillery onslaught from 1,600 guns along an 80-mile, 130-kilometer front. Operation Wacht am Rhein, Watch on the Rhine, Hitler's final frantic bid to divide the Allies and seize the crucial Antwerp harbor, started off surpassing every forecast. General Major Heinz Kokot, 26th Volksgrenadier Division. As night fell on December 15th, the last units shifted into place. The air bit with chill and obscurity, twisting trails in the Eifel, many slick with frost, jammed with soldiers and machines, inching toward jump-off points and gun emplacements. The men had heard this was the Reich's fateful hour. The Führer had orchestrated the drive personally, vowing that the soft, corrupt Americans would shatter against Teutonic resolve. Their Ardennes front relied on green recruits and worn-out outfits parked there for recovery. The Wehrmacht aimed to slice them apart, evoking the 1940 Blitz that toppled France in 6 weeks. Joining the thrust was the 26th Volksgrenadier Division, reconstituted after annihilation on the Eastern Front. Oberst Heinz Kokot's 26th Volksgrenadier Division amounted to a shell of its former self, holding on to a smattering of survivors from Russia and Normandy, but padded with Luftwaffe and Navy stand-ins. In spite of the patchwork makeup, spirits soared. Assurances of fresh gear, sufficient stocks, and total shock value had fueled them. Early gains appeared to confirm it all. The Yanks at first figured it for the expected minor pushback. The Wehrmacht pulled off utter operational shock. U.S. lines buckled beneath the onslaught's fury. Whole outfits gave up or bolted west en route. Paths to Antwerp lay exposed. The dash to Bastogne. Come December 18th, German columns surged toward goals at breakneck pace. Hasso von Manteuffel, leading the 5th Panzer Army, tasked Heinrich Friedrich von Luttwitz's 47th Panzer Corps with taking Bastogne prior to bridging the Meuse at Namur. The offensive's logic boiled down neatly. 7 key routes funneled into Bastogne. Seize them, and you'd throttle the whole U.S. logistics web in the Ardennes. Lacking Bastogne, the Americans faced gridlock on troops, provisions, and reprisals. The Teutonic scheme was bold yet feasible, at least on paper. Luttwitz eyed a 7-mile, 11-kilometer sector for 3 divisions. The 26th Volksgrenadier and 2nd Panzer would spearhead, backed by the Panzer Lehr Division. These outfits brought seasoned grit from countless fights, armed with prime surviving German armor and self-propelled guns. The 26th Volksgrenadier Division pressed on with fierce zeal. Its Panzerjäger anti-tank unit boasted a complete set of 14 mounted Hetzer destroyers, plus formidable 75mm anti-tank cannons. The 26th Volksgrenadier Division stood out as one of the most formidable units among the German forces in the Ardennes, fully prepared to confront U.S. tanks, launch frantic counteroffensives, and handle any challenge, except the reality that awaited them. Initial indications of an unusual resistance emerged as they neared Bastogne. Rather than fleeing chaotically, the Americans withdrew methodically, demolishing bridges, setting up barricades, and forcing the Germans to fight hard for every kilometer gained. Combat Command B from the 10th Armored Division managed to delay the enemy advance sufficiently, allowing the vanguard of the 101st Airborne Division to reach Bastogne just 4 hours before the spearhead of the German troops. Known as the Screaming Eagles, the 101st had been recuperating in Reims, France, at the onset of the German assault. In a matter of hours, they were packed into vehicles and sped through the darkness to Bastogne. Upon arrival, the paratroopers were fatigued, ill-prepared for the winter conditions, and promptly assigned to hold defensive lines. Nevertheless, their timely presence proved pivotal. The siege closed in. By December 20th, German troops had encircled Bastogne completely. Every one of the 7 roads into the town fell under German control by midday on December 21st. And as evening descended, both armies acknowledged the pocket of paratroopers and tank-supported infantry as fully isolated. The noose had tightened. Trapped within were parts of the 101st Airborne Division, Combat Command B of the 10th Armored Division, the 705th Tank Destroyer Battalion, and assorted support units, totaling around 22,000 troops. The U.S. defenders faced odds of about 5 to 1, while suffering shortages of winter clothing, bullets, provisions, medical aid, and top command. Numerous high-ranking leaders, such as the 101st's commanding officer, Major General Maxwell Taylor, were absent on other duties. To the Germans, this scenario echoed Stalingrad, but flipped. The roles reversed, with the Americans now besieged, severed from supplies, and fated to capitulate or perish. General Heinrich Freier von Luttwitz, who led the 47th Panzer Corps, brimmed with assurance. He recalled his experiences in France back in 1940, when the British Expeditionary Force found itself cornered at Dunkirk. He knew encircled armies crumbled, their spirits broke, and they yielded. The Bastogne garrison might hold out with ammunition for 3 days at most, and food for perhaps 4 if strictly conserved. The brutal cold, with temperatures plunging to 10 degrees Celsius, would handle much of the attrition on its own. Such optimism led the 2 panzer divisions of the 47th Panzer Corps, after employing their speed to seal off Bastogne, to press onward toward the Meuse on December 22nd, instead of mounting a unified assault on the town. Certain artillery pieces ran out of high explosive rounds entirely, while others clung to just a handful. Food stocks vanished completely. The garrison resorted to foraging through wrecked machinery and forsaken caches for essentials. Bandages and treatments dwindled to nothing. Casualties succumbed to wounds that proper care could have healed, the demand for submission. Convinced of swift triumph on December 22nd, the Germans issued their capitulation order. The encounter unfolded with striking ceremony. Around 11:30 a.m., on December 22, 1944, 4 German infantrymen, brandishing a pair of white flags, advanced toward U.S. positions along the Arlon Road from Remous-Champs, located south of Bastogne. The ranking figure, Major Wagner from the 47th Panzer Corps, led the group. His subordinate, Lieutenant Helmuth Henke, from the Panzer Lehr Operations Section, clutched a satchel at his side. They even carried blindfolds, expecting to be escorted to the American leader for negotiations on terms. Drafted in English and German alike, the message was stern and official. The tide of battle has turned. This time, U.S. troops in and around Bastogne find themselves hemmed in by powerful German armored formations. Additional German armored units have sea troops crossed the Orthe River close to Orville, captured Marcia, and advanced to St. Hubert via Rue Creil. The ultimatum continued by insisting on an honorable capitulation within 2 hours, warning of complete destruction otherwise. Viewed through German eyes, this seemed a merciful gesture, granting the U.S. troops an opportunity to escape unnecessary bloodshed. The U.S. reply arrived as a lone term: nuts. This left the German officers truly baffled. McAuliffe is said to have responded with the enigmatic word, nuts. The retort initially perplexed the Germans. Lieutenant Hanker required Colonel Harper to clarify its meaning. If the slang nuts in straightforward English escapes you, it equates to go to hell. At the German command post, the reply sparked dismay. No encircled unit had ever rebuffed a demand for surrender with such outright scorn. Major General Kokot was apparently taken aback. During later post-war questioning, he admitted, "We proposed fair conditions. They were encircled 5-1. No provisions could get through. To reject it appeared not courageous, but mad." The crisp dawn of December 23, 1944, brought clear weather the Germans hadn't witnessed for days. Starting on December 23, conditions cleared up, enabling Allied aircraft to strike. Wehrmacht troops climbed out of their iced-over trenches, thankful for sunlight that could thaw their chilled bodies. Numerous had endured the previous night in sub-zero cold, toes frostbitten, rifles iced solid. Then came the sound, a far-off hum that intensified, reverberating across the ridges encircling Bastogne. At 6:45 a.m., on December 23, aircraft bearing the two Pathfinder teams departed from Chalgrove toward Belgium. These were the vanguard, the navigators set to designate landing areas for the primary group. They parachuted at 9:35 a.m., swiftly seized by U.S. ground units, and hurried to deploy their gear. By 11:50 a.m. on the 23rd, personnel across the line spotted the incoming aircraft. It marked the most uplifting scene amid the whole blockade. To the Americans, it signaled rescue. To the Germans, it heralded the dawning realization of their grave error. The primary fleet arrived at 11:50 a.m., 241 C-47 planes, arrayed in flawless patterns at just over 1,000 feet. They approached in formations, each wave sequentially dispensing loads as the heavens brimmed with multicolored canopies, each hue denoting specific provisions. The anti-aircraft onslaught ensued. German flak teams rushed to their positions. The renowned 80mm flak cannons pivoted upward. 20mm autocannons unleashed their staccato bursts. Heavy machine guns joined the mounting roar. The air grew thick with dark bursts from detonating rounds. Enemy flak erupted everywhere near the aircraft. Following a sharp explosion, McNiss and Sergeant Mertz recoiled. A puncture in the hull revealed a shell had zipped between the pair, separated by mere inches. U.S. planes pressed onward through the hail, holding tight to their alignment with near-reckless resolve. 14 C-47s went down en route or above the zone, downed or wrecked beyond recovery. Yet for each lost, 15 others held steady, hatches flung wide, parcels spilling into the wintry air. German infantry stared in shock as wounded planes, motors trailing smoke, wings shredded by shrapnel, stuck to their path just long enough to release payloads before veering off or plummeting. A single C-47, its rear section ablaze, soared right above enemy lines, with the crew shoving out rations right up to the end before it plunged into the woods. The equation of plenty. What ensued was a textbook display of U.S. supply prowess that crushed German spirits more potently than any bombardment. The vibrant chutes floated earthward like a rainbow blizzard. Countless numbers of them settled over the white-blanketed meadows near Bastogne. The vision of those tinted supply drops descending boosted the spirits of the airborne soldiers. Yet for each uplifted American soul, a German one plummeted. This wasn't the final throes of a trapped outfit. It was the standard drill of an army backed by boundless assets. German analysts desperately tallied and classified the incoming goods: red chutes, shells for howitzers and mortars, rifle rounds; blue, bandages, operating tools, blood plasma, painkillers; yellow, K rations, D rations, tinned meals; white, covers, cold weather gear, footwear, mittens; green, comms gear, power cells, flares; orange, fuel in 5-gallon jerry cans. By nightfall, the outfit possessed 528 K rations plus 250 gallons of gas. Munition stock stood at HE 286, WP 177, and AT 201. And that was merely one battalion's tally. Scale it up for every outfit in Bastogne's relief turned the tide dramatically, with relentless incoming flights that overwhelmed the imagination. Yet the initial morning descent marked only the start. On December 23rd, further operations unfolded. By 2 p.m., a fresh contingent materialized. This batch featured gliders hauled by C-47s, delivering bulkier cargo unsuitable for airborne drops. A total of 92.4 tons landed, encompassing 2,975 gallons of fuel. These aircraft transported full medical setups, complete with physicians, medical staff, and surgical tools. They delivered vehicles like jeeps, radio gear, and even spare cannon barrels. One such glider held solely units of fresh blood for transfusions, a clinical privilege unavailable to even the top echelons of the Wehrmacht. Observing German medics, peering through field glasses, stood in disbelief. As they bandaged casualties with makeshift rags and wood shavings, operating sans painkillers, U.S. forces airlifted chilled plasma, antibiotics like penicillin, and expert surgical squads. This disparity in healthcare prowess alone sufficed to shatter the resolve of any onlooker. Toward evening, guide units had designated numerous landing sites, and the cargo flights proceeded with impeccable timing. Gunners unleashed portions of the newly arrived shells against foes, even as zones were still being secured. U.S. artillerymen discharged rounds that had drifted earthward via chutes mere moments prior. The fighter squadrons descended. Beyond the disheartening spectacle of the supply flotilla, the favorable skies unleashed an even graver threat. It signified the resurgence of U.S. dominance from the skies in its fiercest manifestation. P-47. Thunderbolts targeted Wehrmacht units along the routes. Diving swiftly and close to the ground, their 50-caliber guns roared. Missiles streaked from beneath the wings. They pursued any sign of motion: transport lorries, horse-pulled guns, lone autos, even clusters of troops fell victim. Highways transformed into kill zones. Any daytime motion courted annihilation. Forces that had maneuvered unhindered for days now froze in place. Convoys en route to the lines got exposed and methodically obliterated. The mental toll hit swiftly and crushed spirits. Following 7 days of perceived triumph, Wehrmacht personnel faced a harsh recall of their Normandy ordeal, confronting a foe whose resources allowed pursuits of solitary targets from the air. The shattering of morale. As dusk fell on December 23rd, the mindset shift among the encircling Germans reached its peak. They had seen more than mere provisions arriving. It was a showcase of unmatched manufacturing and supply prowess beyond understanding. The figures proved irrefutable and bleak. If the U.S. could hazard scores of planes and pilots to aid a single encircled outfit, what stockpiles did they possess? If they managed to dispatch vast tonnages in flawless sync on short notice, what lay behind their full production? Might? Christmas Eve setback. December 24th ushered in overcast skies and flurries, halting the vast aerial armadas. Wehrmacht leaders clung to hopes of regaining ground. The 26th Volksgrenadier Division gained a single Panzergrenadier battalion from the 15th Panzergrenadier Division on Christmas Eve, earmarked for the pivotal push the following day. This represented their final shot. They needed to seize Bastogne before skies opened anew. The Wehrmacht strategy was bold. Short on manpower, with the 26th Volksgrenadiers' ranks fatigued, the 47th Panzer opted for targeted strikes at key western perimeter spots in phases, avoiding a unified barrage from every direction. Strikes would emanate from the northwest, aiming to pierce presumed frail U.S. positions. The offensive ignited in the murky pre-dawn of Christmas Day. During the early hours before sunrise on December 25th, the Germans mounted another total assault to eradicate the Bastogne enclave. Mark the Fours, 18 in number, 4 panzers, backed by foot soldiers, shattered the sparse defenses of the 327th Glider Infantry and pushed onward to Hemrula. Briefly, victory appeared within grasp. The armor surged ahead, troops flooding the breach. Wehrmacht infantrymen pressed on through the drifts, convinced this assault would crack American resistance. Yet the U.S. counterstrike proved savage, fueled by munitions airdropped 2 days before. 2 panzers evaded the lethal barrage from the 406th 3rd, but met destruction from a swift counter-armor unit sent by Corps Command. From the 18 panzers that initiated the charge, not a single endured the engagement, the recurring failure. December 26th administered the ultimate strike against German aspirations. The encirclement ended on December 26th as an advance guard from the 4th Armored Division, alongside forces from General George S. Patton's 3rd Army, carved a path to Bastogne. In the deepening twilight shortly after 5 p.m. on December 26th, units from Combat Command R of the 4th Armored Division pierced the German ring from the southern side, lifting the blockade around Bastogne. Leading the initial U.S. armored thrust into the town were vehicles from the 37th Tank Battalion under the command of Lieutenant Colonel Creighton Abrams, who would eventually lead all American troops in Vietnam. Upon arrival, they encountered a garrison worn down, yet resilient, sustained through aerial deliveries and assured of triumph. The raw data from U.S. Army archives paints a harsher picture than any individual testimony. In the course of the Bastogne encirclement, parachute drops brought 107 tons of provisions and gear to the 101st Airborne, encompassing 4,900 gallons of fuel, while glider operations added another 924 tons, including 2,975 gallons of gasoline. Examining the daily totals, on December 23rd, 241, C-47s handled the primary airdrop, supplemented by further flights. Operations on December 24th were curtailed by poor conditions. December 25 saw weather block significant efforts. Resupply efforts persisted from December 26 through 27, even once land connections formed. Altogether, aerial missions delivered more than 113 tons of essentials, exceeding 15,000 artillery rounds, close to 8,000 gallons of fuel, medical aid for the injured, rations for 15,000 troops, and cold weather gear for the outpost. Contrast this with German assets. Their troops encircling Bastogne numbered 54,000, facing 22,000 Americans inside. Enemy air missions above the area totaled under 100, while U.S. flights surpassed 2,000. The Germans managed 0 aerial resupplies. After the war, evaluations by German military experts validated the gut feelings of frontline fighters. General der Panzertruppe Hasse von Manteuffel, who directed the 5th Panzer Army in the push, later contemplated the clash in his writings, drawn from interviews and recollections. At its core, his view held that Bastogne proved the Americans had mastered the key challenge of contemporary combat: sustainment. They resourced trapped units via the skies more effectively than their own forward units via highways. In clear weather, their abundance in resources rendered battlefield skill moot. General Major Heinz Kokott, portrayed by Colonel S.L.A. Marshall as a reserved, intellectual, and composed leader who avoided shouting and showed restraint in decisions, offered the sharpest post-war comment during his questioning. He stated plainly, "On December 23rd, as those cargo aircraft swarmed the heavens, any German who beheld them realized they confronted not merely soldiers, but a full-fledged manufacturing powerhouse while relying on firearms and steeds." The encounter with Kennard jolted the German officers visibly. They could scarcely believe this youthful-looking officer had been a key foe. When Kokott conferred with Colonel Harry Kennard, G3 operations chief for the 101st Airborne amid the siege, in the post-war period, astonishment was evident. Lutwitz remarked, "Are you sure he headed operations? Could he have merely led a single regiment?" The mental toll of Bastogne's air lifeline rippled swiftly across German lines throughout the Ardennes campaign. Every formation included personnel who had seen it firsthand or absorbed vivid reports from eyewitnesses. Tales amplified with retellings, yet the fundamental fact endured. American wealth in material defied German understanding. The cruel twist lay in this: the Germans had unwittingly set the stage for their own morale collapse. Enclosing Bastogne compelled the U.S. to unveil their resupply prowess from the air. Bypassing the settlement as first intended might have spared them this stark revelation of inexhaustible might. Fighting persisted beyond December 26th as German moves near Bastogne turned into futile, draining assaults yielding no gains. Hitler demanded swift capture of the town, unwilling to concede that the beleaguered Americans had not just endured, but emerged bolstered by superior logistics. By December 29th, reinforcements arrived in the form of the 1st SS Panzer Division from the 6th Panzer Army. Additional units fed into the slaughter: the 9th SS Panzer, the Führer Escort Brigade, the 177th Volksgrenadier, all decimated against fortified and replenished U.S. lines. The final significant German offensive launched on January 4th and faltered almost immediately. Troops hammered the identical defenses repeatedly, piling up losses amid the very production might they had glimpsed. What those German fighters observed was only a sliver of U.S. manufacturing potential. I wasn't aware that the Douglas C-47 served as the primary aircraft for parachute deployments, playing a major role in missions like Overlord, Dragoon, Market Garden, and Varsity. During the conflict, more than 10,000 of these planes were manufactured. U.S. production facilities churned out planes at a pace that outstripped anything Germany could achieve. C-47s delivered over 50,000 paratroopers throughout the war. The proof in history. The past has confirmed the profound mental effect of the Bastogne aerial resupply on enemy troops. Experts in military history view it as a turning point, not only in the Battle of the Bulge, but also in highlighting how traditional tactics proved useless against superior manufacturing power. The United States Army's formal records indicate that questioning of German captives after December 23rd revealed a significant shift in attitude. Prior to the resupply flights, those taken prisoner discussed short-term obstacles and ultimate success. Following the sight of the massive fleet overhead, their words turned to mere endurance and wishes for a swift conclusion to the fighting. From December 19, 1944 to January 6, 1945, the 101st Airborne Division endured 341 fatalities, 1,691 injuries, and 516 unaccounted for. Even while encircled and facing odds of 5-1, their losses remained comparatively modest, evidence of how vital the air deliveries were in sustaining their fighting strength. The key takeaway: the 101st Airborne refused to yield because surrender wasn't necessary. Their country could provision them directly from the heavens, rendering the old strategy of sieges a thing of the past. Those German troops who observed the 241 C-47s on December 23, 1944, along with the ongoing streams of transport planes, didn't just see aid reaching Bastogne. They glimpsed the evolution of combat, one dominated by the power that could saturate the skies with machines as readily as Germany packed a battlefield with infantry. In that display of U.S. plenty, they read the end of the Third Reich. The conflict dragged on for 5 more months. Yet for the onlookers beneath the swarm above Bastogne, it concluded on that crisp December day when they grasped that the 101st wouldn't give in, not due to superior courage or skill, but because their homeland ensured their perseverance. The aircraft above Bastogne supplied more than the 101st Airborne. They demolished the lingering dreams of German triumph and inscribed across the clouds the core reality of World War II. The American stockpile was immense, its determination unyielding, and its success inevitable. The enemy fighters who beheld that skyborne fleet understood beyond doubt what their commanders would reject for another 4 months. The struggle was finished, and victory in the air over a modest Belgian village on a bright December dawn made it plain to all that the 101st would hold firm. Note, certain German soldier viewpoints in this narrative draw from verified unit locations and after-action accounts, as personal logs from the encirclement are scarce in archives. All principal occurrences, timelines, data points, and leadership remarks stem from established historical documents.